Adam, who needs no introduction. It's now about a week and a half before you retire, leave the stage as a dancer after 22 years, but more importantly, 30-some years or 30 years in this building?
Oh my God, it would be, I would say 31, 32. I think I was around 10 years of age when I was first came into the Australian Ballet Centre, when I was, a junior associate of the Australian Ballet School, which was a program.
How official?
Which was set up by Kylián Stock, I think, at the time, and we were sort of young, wide-eyed, kids, from the local ballet school, brought into sort of this official realm of dance.
Are you ready to leave this building?
Yes. And no, but yes. I think it's definitely time. I'm definitely at peace with, hanging up the shoes, but it's hard. It's got to be hard to have the last class and have, the final goodbyes. But I'm, ready to find out what's next.
So let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
You finish your last show.
Yeah.
What are you doing after?
So a week after I finish, it's been a long time sort of planning and figuring it out, but I've brought an off-road caravan and a Toyota Land Cruiser 200 series, and where my partner and I are driving around Australia, taking an 18 months hiatus, a break, and just, seeing what Australia has to offer, outside of a ballet studio, and, grieve the loss of what was, but not in a dramatic, tragic kind of way, but just, it's a transition,
Yeah.
I've been Adam Bull, principal artist of the Australian Ballet for a long time, and I'll just be Adam now, which is a nice, which is a good thing, and it's got to be nice to see who that guy is.
Well, the beauty of it is you've always been Adam, and you've had many shades and colorings of your journey. Speaking of the journey, you're in an office, I presume, as a young, were you 17, 18 when you got the news that you were going to join the Australian Ballet?
Yeah, 18.
18.
Yeah.
So you're in the office.
Yeah.
David McAllister is taking in his first intake of dancers as a fresh director.
Yeah.
What was the day like that you found out you were given a contract?
That was kind of a bittersweet day, because it's sort of, you go through the Australian Ballet School with like all your comrades and mates, and it all that 3 years of training, is aimed towards that day where you do have the meeting with the director of the Australian Ballet. And it was a dream come true, like, from a young kid, sitting across at the State Theatre watching the Australian Ballet. That was my dream. It was my dream to be a dancer at the Australian Ballet.
Was your dream to be a dancer with the Australian Ballet, or was your dream to be a principal artist with the Australian Ballet?
That was the dream upon the dream.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, of course, I think, when you do have that burning desire to be a dancer, that's the pinnacle, to be a principal artist of the Australian Ballet. And that dream came true as well. Like, it was, I've had the most blessed career because I literally have had my dreams come true.
So then how long, were you in the Corps de Ballet for? How long were you a soloist? And then, when did you become principal?
I was in the Corps de Ballet for 2 years. And in those 2 years, I was given opportunities amongst being the waiter and the soldier and the guard, which you sort of go through those times when you're in the first years in the company. But I remember it was a gala for Ross Stretton, and it was in my first year. I think there was a few injuries, and I was understudy of the understudy for First Movement Symphony in C.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, and they all went off, and I was on for that gala. I think it was like September of that year, and dancing with Lucinda Dunn. And I was like
Who was a principal artist?
I think she was just promoted to principal.
Okay.
And that was like my first sort of break, But it was how things happen. You know, it's just opportunities that you know are given because of circumstances really at that time, and you make the most of it. And in the following year, I did colas in La Fille Margade. I think it would have been like the tallest colas ever. I was like a beanpole too. I was like a giant cheese stick in those yellow.
So you weren't typecast.
No.
In your career.
Yeah. And I think David really challenged me at that point in my career as well. Like he I think he thought I was a small person for quite a while. You know, I was given sort of roles, Red Pas de Deux in Forgotten Land, Walter Burke's Tarantella, Colas, which was great because I loved moving fast. I loved, you know, moving my body around like that. So like it was wonderful to be given those opportunities and not to be typecast. And I think that really showed me in a different facet to what I presented. You know, I think it's easy to go, oh, tall guy, prince.
He'll be the prince.
Yeah. So those opportunities really sort of pushed me and really sort of developed me and stretched me as an artist. And I think sort of more of those opportunities came, which then sort of led to promotions. And yeah, so it was 2 years, I think, in every rank, which was sort of a really quick progression.
That is quick, but also important, I think, to go through those ranks and to really appreciate sort of everyone that's in a big company.
Yeah.
I personally have seen, you know, big ballerinas or whoever that never went through ranks, just shot up straight to through. You know, principal, and just don't, I think, have an appreciation as much as they could towards everyone on stage.
Yeah, definitely.
And every role on stage.
Definitely.
So who was really formative in your career in terms of mentors? You know, I've always found that those great coaches that just make such a difference in your career are so vital. Yeah.
Dale Baker, who was my final year teacher at the Australian Ballet School, really put it all together for me, like what it actually means to be a dancer, a principal dancer, a male dancer, a partner, an artist, you know, having a sense of humour. You know those coaches that don't say much, but everything that they say is like a nugget of gold.
Yeah.
And all those.
And it clicks.
It clicks. It's simple. You know. That was one of his things actually. He was like, it may be simple, but it's not easy. You know, he had all those little nuggets that still stay with me, and just techniques and partnering techniques. He was an amazing partner, and I think he really pushed home how important it was to be a good partner. And I think, you know, before you do the solo, you do the pas de deux.
Yeah.
And that was one of his mantras. You know, you have to be there for your partner because, you know, as a male dancer, that's, you know, a big part of what we do. So I really thank him for that time because it really set me up in the best possible way.
Adam, if you can think of one show that sort of you left thinking, oh, I could retire now, or that was the culmination of all the hard work and time and effort. Do you have a show like that?
I think as dancers, we're so hard on ourselves. Like every show, you come back and you go, oh, God, only that. Oh, it's a good show, but oh. But the one that always stands out and the one I always come back to, it was that sort of culmination in effort and time and place. We were doing Graeme Murphy's Swan Lake in New York at the Lincoln Center. And it was the last show of the season that we were doing there. My partner was there and my mum was there. And it was one of those shows, I'm sure you would have had that same feeling, where you come off stage and you don't even really know what you did. You know, you were so in it. You were just present in the moment. Nothing went wrong. You know, you lost yourself for that 2.5, 3 hours of time in that ballet. And you know, it was such an important work for my career. And, you know, we'd performed it quite a lot, but that show stood above all the others just for the fact of looking at where I was. And
Mm-hmm.
it was the show that I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you always have those high expectations for yourself, and you very rarely achieve that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, expectation. But it was really one that I'll always remember. And yet again, I'm not sure what it is when you see your loved ones after a moment like that, emotions just
Yeah.
come up
Mm-hmm.
because you're sharing that moment in time, and you're just really proud of that moment, you know, and all the work that so many people have done to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll always, you know, cherish that moment. And just seeing my mum, you know, at the front of Lincoln Centre in front of that fountain,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was just, yeah, a really special moment in time.
Great. So last question is an obvious one,
Mm-hmm.
but an important one. There's a whole new generation questioning, you know, traditions and cultures of the ballet world,
Yeah.
ready to tear it apart,
Yeah.
ready to express themselves how they want to express themselves.
Yeah.
How would you guide them forward?
Wow. Just go back to your younger self and always go, what is it about this art form that you love? Why do you do what you do? What is it about ballet that keeps you coming back day after day to do pliés and tendus and train and work and perspire and you know, it's, you come back to, I always come back to that little kid in a little suburban ballet studio in Melbourne. I was transfixed from day one by this art form. And I loved it so much, and I love it so much now. You have to always come back to why you do what you do and what makes that really important. And for me, it's being able to express yourself. You're sharing a part of yourself with an audience. You're telling stories. Whatever those stories are, the stories are changing on a daily basis now from where they were 20 years ago, from where they were when ballet was created, you know, all those years ago. But really the essence of what the art form is that expression of oneself in its most pure and beautiful form. So stick to that. When you go off the path and you question yourself why, take a look at your younger self in the studio and what was it about that little kid that inspired you from day one, you know, because, you know, ballet, I think, really stems from that point of time when it started.
Yeah, the seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and why was I transfixed from day one? It was just, I found the art form that was true to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
On 22 years as a professional, but for giving what you gave as an artist to so many audience members, to the Australian Ballet. You've left your mark on this company. And I hope you drive all over that country in your caravan. You reflect, but also look forward at what life has in store for you.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
Yeah.